If you've been with the Angels for a bit, then you guys already know I'm very excited about a game currently in alpha called Renown. Renown seeks to combine the combat elements of, say, Chivalry 2 or Mordhau, along with the survival elements of Rust. So yeah, you see a lot of medieval Rust comparisons. Now, I did make a video providing an overview of the game. I'll link that in the description and attach it to the end screen if you want to find out a bit more about the core gameplay loop. But today it's all about combat. Remember, the only way to become an angel is by subscribing for more medieval melee content. So I've been in the Renown Partner Program for a few months, but I haven't been allowed to post footage or impressions until today. They actually have a public combat test going on until June 20th. I'll provide all that info down below if you want to hop in and help the developers out with some testing and feedback. So, in the medieval slasher genre, we currently have Chivalry 2 and Mordhau. I've played both games extensively, and Renown to me seems like it's taken a lot of inspiration, specifically from Mordhau. You need to time your parries or blocks, and your opponents try to use feints or swing manipulation to mess up your timing and land a strike. I will say the parry window, it seems much more forgiving than in Mordhau. You have your staple melee slasher attacks in Renown, like stabs, overheads, slashes, and kicks. You can cancel or feint attacks with Q, and you can also morph one attack into another. And I actually didn't think this feature was in the game until I was talking to some of the devs, because it needs to be done basically instantly, and in my opinion, this needs some adjustment to be viable. Now, anyone going into Renown expecting it to compete with the fluidity or polish of Chivalry or Mordhau, right now, you need to temper your expectations, just a tad. It's very much a true alpha test, which means a lot of development still needs to happen. And when I first started playing Renown, it felt a bit clunky. I mean, especially as someone whose channel is built around Chivalry 2, it was a bit jarring to jump into something that doesn't feel as fluid. But as I spent more time in some of the dual servers, I started to build a bit more of an understanding on how to be successful in the game. And I can definitely see the potential in the combat system. I would kind of define it as something right now that it has a foundation. You can see where the developers want to go, but it needs to be cleaned up and polished to get to where it needs to be. The combat right now, it revolves very much around either using drags or excels to get around your opponent's parry, or using feints to bait out their parry and then punishing them. It feels like a lot of what works in Mordhau will work in Renown. I will say I wish morphing was more effective, since the window to morph is so small. I've found the opponents either they'll not see the fake or react to it, or it happens so fast that even if they press block early, the parry window is large enough that they parry anyway. I would much rather see more morphs in the meta than jiggle feinting. Now, you will see I tested out both first and third person perspective, and right now at the current stage of development, third person has a massive advantage. The camera is zoomed out so far that you get a massive vision boost, and more importantly, the parry window is so long on this build that I found myself dragging my slashes extremely far off my screen in first person to get around it, losing vision of my opponent. There also seems to be quite a bit of spin to win shenanigans taking place with people who've played the game a bit, which I assume at some point will be disallowed, since I know the devs have stated it's not something they want in the melee combat system. So now for closing thoughts. While I'm really excited about Renown long term, I think we're still a good ways off from a final product. I think a good round of polishing up the combat system would go a long way towards the success of the project. If I worked for them, I'd look to increase the fluidity and responsiveness of combat. Morphs and combos, they have a very short window to make happen, which means you almost have to predetermine your moves, and it makes the game feel unresponsive when you want to combo after an attack hit and your character ignores a press and just stands there doing nothing. I also found that the weapons and strikes seemed to lack impact. Instead of feeling like I banged a suit of armor with a sword, I felt more like I tapped a kitchen pot with a spoon. And lastly, some of the animations could use some cleaning up. The kicks specifically looked really rough. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for my combat update on Renown. Hopefully I'm back this summer with some updates on the actual core gameplay loop, because while we all love combat, I think what makes or breaks this game will be the survival and castle building mechanics. This is probably the project I'm most excited for in development. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the gameplay clips. Does the combat look good to you? I'll play a few clips with some sound. Champ out.